the human that we live. Ah, it's being recorded. Thanks, Marta. And the third pillar, the third fallacy, is about the idea of humans that we live in a reality. We in the Western world really have an idea that we live in a certain reality, and that other cultures are living in a like in a fairy tale, in a story, or in like a crazy narrative. But the opposite is true here in the West. I can speak for myself. We do live also in a narrative built on assumptions, presuppositions, and values, which has which is the causality of why we have these crises. So these are the three pillars about thinking, listening, and the narrative. But first, I will start with a more personal elaboration of who I am and what it did for me, because it's also a running up to the first exercise that I want to give to you. That will be around the break, maybe in, I think, 20, 30 minutes. Because the first part of Socratic Design is about the personal narrative. Marta also explained it. It has been earlier in the sessions, the personal narrative inquiry. That's also part of Socratic Design. And later today, we will do a listening exercise about the second pillar. So you have this the art of listening, and those two will be on training today. And I hope you will get some experience that you can try it this afternoon with one of your colleagues or one of your friends, so you can start to change the narrative. Socratic design is really about narrative change, narrative transformation in yourself, in your organization, or in your community. So try to see this as a training, try to be open to different ways of thinking or feeling. First, we're going to run up slowly to the first exercise, and that's about the personal narrative. And by doing that, I will first tell about my personal narrative, so you can understand how deep how much it meant for me, and how with this insights of my personal narrative, I became a totally radical, different civil servant and even different father. When I was 4 years old, um, my family had a car crash. My father died. My mother was severely injured, and she couldn't take care of us for like 6 months. I was alone with my little sister. And for my sister, I was the last piece of safety. Imagine a 4-year-old child being alone in his world with this moment. What this happens with this child, my little me, the little Dennis of 4 years old. Um, I try to understand the world, but that's very hard for a child of 4. So what a child of 4 does, it starts to think about, it makes its own philosophy about the world. And I made the philosophy, I can feel what I feel is so strong and so wrong, I will cut myself off from feeling. And this is what a lot of children do when they have this kind of situations. So I became very strong on the rational side, on the thinking side, but I lost all my feeling. I remember that crying was wrong, that to have grief is very natural for most people, but for me it was a wrong thing. So I made the presupposition in my life, my personal narrative was crying or sadness or grieveness is a wrong thing. And as a survival instinct, you might say, I made a different habit. And my habit was everything must be nice, everybody must be happy. I cannot say no. If I say no, I will hurt somebody. I might even make somebody start to cry. So I always said yes. I became what you might call a pleasing character. It made me very successful in my life. I worked very hard to please everybody. But when I became a father 6 years ago, and my first child came to the world, I still had this presupposition of I cannot feel. It's very, it's not I cannot feel, but I'm scared of feeling. Maybe that's better. and I'm scared of crying. So when my child was hurt or cried, I couldn't really just be there for him. I was in my body. I felt the urgency to flee or to freeze. And with Socratic Design, and I must say a lot of different things, but especially with Socratic Design, I started to write my own personal narrative. And it started with the question, what is your most addictive thought? What is something that is often returning in your life? And for me, this sentence was, I am scared to feel, or I am angry, I cannot be sad, or I cannot say no to somebody. I cannot, let's say, teleurstellen. Maarten, what's the word? I cannot, English.
Disappointment.
Disappoint.
Yeah, thank you. I cannot disappoint somebody. Thank you. It's a collective wisdom already there. I cannot disappoint. Yeah. This is the start of a personal narrative. The sentence with starts with I, and what you often is something that is disturbing you, what is blocking you. And for me, it was very obvious. I could trace it back easily, of course, to this car accident. It was a major event. But by doing my personal narrative, I became conscious of the connection between this event and these presuppositions that are in my life. I'm scared to feel. I'm scared to be alone, and I cannot disappoint. And the interesting thing is that if you write these down, you start to experience feelings, and they hurt. But that's the answer. The wisdom is in finding the hurt. Nietzsche already said this. And then you can design different habits, different things. So you can change the way you feel. You can even say to yourself, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to think this feeling. You can change it. You can make little habits, little actions, which is totally the different way around of your coping, of your survival mechanisms. And this is crucial because now you can see this my presuppositions, I cannot disappoint, is a personal narrative presupposition, but they are embedded also in a more cultural narrative. They are also embedded in a more philosophical narrative. So that's my start, and I will try to elaborate on these three pillars, how you can understand them, and then let's see what's the timeline where we're going. Yeah, let's say about 20 minutes. We're gonna try do this exercise. I will do somebody in the group, and then I will give you some time to write your own personal narrative. But first, to understand this on a biological level, we have to address this first fallacy about thinking. The first fallacy is you think that you think, but actually you only repeat addictive thoughts. Remember my addictive thought. I cannot disappoint, or I'm scared to be alone. This has a reason, of course. We are animals. We are biological animals. This is proven already by David Bohm, a great physicist, colleague of Einstein. Einstein already mentioned this about thinking. He said we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that has been the cause of these problems. So we already addressed it. But David Bohm is these three guys: Oppenheimer, David Bohm, and Einstein. This is more about David Bohm. David Bohm already pointed out it's about that we are human beings and our thinking is also addictive. But then the neuroscience wasn't really that far. And now we have Damasio, great scientist, also a philosopher, and he actually proved it. Because you must understand the human body as a big silo or a big, yeah, well, let's call it a silo or a big thing with skin around it, a big fluid with millions and millions, even billions of neurons in it. Billions of neurons. And these neurons, they make all kinds of connections all the time. And that is actually how we think and how we feel. And this is great. Every animal has this. And this is why our heart keeps beating. This is why our everything works. Why we want to eat. Why we want to replicate. This neurons with all these connections they make every millisecond keeps us alive, and is also part of our survival instinct. It's also part of our social system. Why we want to cooperate. Why we want to be together. Why we want to be the first one in the group. And it's also how we think as a Homo sapiens. And to understand thinking, it's to make it a bit simple, is a set of connections, a circuit between these neurons. And when a circuit is being made, you fire, and then a substance is released, a lot of different substances, but let's keep it simple for now. The substance dopamine. And people might know about this word, this fluid, is dopamine. It's mostly addressed as a negative thing, but we simply need it. Every animal needs it. It's how our system works, how it communicates, why the heart beats, how do we how do we eat at everything. And this dopamine actually is a very useful substance because it is needed for how do we learn, how we it also uses, like, if a animal sees a predator, it flees. It's the same system. It's also it's needed for fear and for fight, for flight and for fight. But for the human beings, it's even becomes more interesting because it's also needed for us to how we think and how we learn languages and all these things that we do in our lives. But this dopamine system is also about repetition. It's how evolution also works. As this little animal sees a predator and it starts to observe it and say, "Oh, it has large teeth or big eyes," then it will be eaten. No, in this dopamine system, there's this circuit to say, "Flee now, or you will die." It's the biggest pain, the biggest learner. So the animal flees. So dopamine is always wants to repeat it. For people who have smoked in their lives, it's using the same system. So our addictive system is actually being abused with dopamine, and it's the same with playing too much video games or all kind of addictions is all based on this dopamine system. And the interesting part is that it also being used of thinking. So the ability to learn a language is very useful, but some thoughts can be addictive too. Some feelings can be addictive too. So go back to my personal narrative. When I was 4, I had a very difficult time. The pain was very, very deep. It was actually very, I was hurt. I was being alone. My father died. My mother was not there. And I made a new thought. Um, I cannot disappoint, or crying is bad. That is a wrong thought, but it was very addictive. It was a survival thought. It was needed for me as a 4-year-old. But I carried the thought through all my life, and it has a really deep impact on how I'm being a father or how I'm being a good, true colleague. Because if you always say yes, then sometimes you're lying or even pretending that you can arrange it. So it is this strongly. But this addictive thought, I cannot disappoint, or I'm scared to be alone, is a thought that is really wired into my body. It's consciously being there, and it's connected with this deep pain, this deep hurt, which has never been addressed. So that's how the dopamine system works on thoughts, but also on feelings. And this is to give an example. This is, of course, a very difficult example, but people who has a lot of hurt, or maybe being, for example, abused, also have these kind of things, that the feeling is so deep that they might even cover it, or if the pain is always there. You see it, for example, in people who have been to war zones, these post syndrome topics. There's a lot been written about keeping the score by the body keeps the score. I forgot his name of the writer, but he also sees that the pain is being stored in your body. The body keeps the score, and the body is, although you're out of the war zone, or although you're out of a difficult period, your body is still coping with this dopamine. It's always on. It's always on. So let's see how pain is being like ingrained in your system. So that's about the pillar one. The second pillar is about listening, and that is you can really explain it very simple. That the ability to listen, to really listen, is difficult. We call it the art of listening. We're going to do an exercise later in the training. And I will explain a bit further, but the easiest way to understand is that because everybody, in my experience, most people have addictive thoughts, it's very hard to truly listen. Imagine that you are in like a meeting, especially online meetings, but let's say physical meetings also. Maybe you might recognize with colleagues who are not listening, who are only thinking their addictive thoughts. I want to say something. I want to be seen, or the other way around. I don't dare to say something, or they're all in their mind. They're all in their addictive thoughts. We call this shelf addictive thoughts a harness, a protection, a layer. We call it a harness. Um, and if you're thinking in your harness, if you're thinking in your addictive thoughts, it's very hard to listen. There are sometimes people in which you might know in your surroundings who always think that they are right, who always think that they should be right, or they should be critique, or should have critique, or should have like a question, like a very not constructive question, because it's their addictive thoughts. They always need to do this because they want to do this, because then they have the feeling that they are seen. Probably it's going back years ago when there was something happening with their father and they couldn't see. It's still working with them. I want to be seen, and so I give this critique, or I always take the floor. Or I cannot let somebody. They will interrupt people who are speaking all the way, without even asking polite. So the art of listening is the first step. Is actually the first pillar. So if you really want to truly listen to somebody else, then you have to address first your personal narrative. What addictive thought is disrupting me to truly listen to somebody else? And if you can truly listen to somebody else, then the Ubuntu philosophy kicks in. Ubuntu says, I am because we are. It is the presupposition that a human is not an individual, but actually a social creature. And this is a very rich philosophy, African philosophy. But you can practice philosophy now. You can practice philosophy in the training we will give you in a few minutes. No, this will be the second training, sorry. But you can train it this afternoon, or I don't know where you're in the world, or tomorrow. If you know your addictive thoughts while you're not listening, and you can try to see somebody and truly listen to somebody, and that is actually Ubuntu. See somebody is actually listening to somebody, truly what she or her says. We'll train it later. Then the third fallacy, the third pillar of Socratic Design is about the narrative. That already explained that the idea that we're living in a kind of reality, but we're actually living in a narrative. This is a very we're living in a personal narrative. I explained it already, but we're also living in a cultural narrative, or even in a philosophical narrative. The narrative is used by many people, but you can also understand it as a story, the narrative or the story that we live in. And it is something that humans need. We share with each other values, language, all kind of things that makes us cooperate together. And this is all combined into a narrative. We always had this as a Homo sapiens. With a narrative, we can construct cathedrals, we can make religions, we can put a man on the moon. This is only because we share a narrative and a language. And there's this very famous thing in when the Americans were doing the space race. It was a very strong narrative. And somebody at NASA who cleaned the floor was asked, "What do you do for your work?" And this cleaner said, I am putting a man on the moon. This is a narrative. This is how people can cooperate for a single thing, and it can make people all align together. You can put a man on the moon, you can build cathedrals, you can build bridges around the world because you have a common purpose, a common narrative. But I already said it earlier, it also makes us the most destructive animals in the world. This narrative can also upset the most strategic experience in the world. It makes us wage wars. A narrative is the only crucial thing how we can actually do genocide. And it also is the reason why we have ecological crises or how democracies are falling apart. And even these days, with all these big tech, there's also very strong narrative in big tech. We might have time to go into it, but we'll see, Martin. So that's for now for the three pillars. I want to slowly go to the first exercise. And know that the first exercise is I want to ask you to write your personal narrative. And you can take it's also but first I want to try it with somebody in the group to do it as an exercise. There are many people in the group, but maybe first a question. Who has a addictive thought that he is willing to share on this recorded Zoom session, which will be on YouTube? Might be a bit anxiety, but let's see if somebody wants to volunteer. I'll give you a few seconds. It's also a chance. Nina, I am not enough. Nina, can you come in the call if you want, if you dare?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was just moving because my partner was resting in the room where I was. Hello.
Very good. Hello. Um, uh, um, Maybe before we start, I want to address this. A personal narrative might sound very private, but Socratic design is actually the other way around. And the reason that we think that our presuppositions are private is causing us a lot of stress. And in my experience, everybody has these presuppositions. It is a Western thinking, a Western cultural narrative that the private is even existing. And there are a lot of different cultures who think it's a whole different way around. They don't even recognize the I, the me. This is what Descartes already. Is maybe the cause of Descartes. René Descartes. He said, "I think, so I am."
Therefore, I am. Yeah.
And that's the Enlightenment period here in Europe, and this was the start of the what you might say the individualism. So it's very hard. Individualism in Dutch, individualism. Yeah. And it's always being stronger by the mechanical age. So the human being is not even is his thinking, but also the human is an apparatus, a mechanical thing, which doesn't even feel also beckoned by the Protestant religion or feeling is wrong. So there is a different way. Socratic design looks at it a different way or explores different ways and different cultures back is that the private domain is actually not private. It doesn't even exist. It's our presuppositions feel like very private, but they're actually not us. They are old thoughts, old feelings ingrained in us. You might say the culture, the Western culture, is all full of presuppositions about female and men, about the importance of work, about the importance of economical growth, about the importance of success above the other, about trust and distrust. And these cultures where we're born in and we're living, they are actually attacking us, and having this harness of presuppositions, and we mix and tangle them, but actually inside of us is our true human being. Nina, thank you to be the volunteer. I'm gonna ask you some question, if you would say, and try to a small narrative research. Can you start with your first narrative? Would you say that I was not enough?
Yeah, so you want me to explain a bit? Yeah,
Can
this
you?
is a story I have, and it's recurring. It's coming back, and I wonder if when you mentioned addictive, that's what I'm wondering. Like, am I addicted to it? I think this is a new framing of it, but yeah, I have some traces of it. So I was raised in a family that was very ambitious, and I think worthiness was linked to success, whether that's academic success or like being recognized and so on. So I attach my value to what others think. And I think that's not only me. Yeah? So it feels vulnerable to share, but I also know that it's not only me. I think a lot of us do that. And I think our education system is built on that, others telling you how good or bad you are. Um, so for me, it's really hard to tell myself I am enough without conditioning it to someone else's uh,
Yeah,
opinion or
yeah,
judgment or evaluation.
yeah,
So that's I think the thought and story that, and it also I noticed that it's also is on the other side of the coin is uh, it can be a strength because I do have critical thinking. It has pushed me. I do think it has a light side. It has really pushed me. It's made me successful, but then it comes with certain cost. Um, and I also notice it how it's the not enoughness within me projects to other people that I'm judging critically, and like what is I put standards. So this is also, it's not only towards myself, but I also project it outside. Yeah.
yeah. Nina, thank you so much. Um, and you also have a very good conscience about your personal narrative. I will repeat what you said, and I will explain it with the methodology. So you already said that success was very important in your family, yeah? and that to have a academic study was being successful. This is a very strong narrative in the world right now. You see this, what John Dewey already said as the abstract fallacy. The abstract fallacy is how more you can think abstract things, theories, it's better, it's more importance, it's higher status than the more practical way. This is what he addressed as wrong. But it's very strong, especially in the academic world. And you see that your family has this idea that if you are a good human, you are a successful human trained in an academy or a good university. This is a very strong narrative, and you see what it happens, what it does with a child. Especially that you see a lot of people who are not, I mean, raised in these cultures who are being, let's say, uncertain about their own decisions or uncertain by their own standards. And to raise a child, one important thing is to learn this child how to value his or her own actions and goals. But you see this most of the time the other way around. And the education system is, there are very good examples, but there are a lot of education systems, especially in, for example, in France, but also in the Netherlands, where there's a lot of critique on the student. Even a 9 is not good enough in our ranking system, or like, I think it's an A, yeah, in other systems, yeah. And you also address it. You also you make the analogy of the analysis that You had it as a child, but it still is with you, and it has success, like me as well. But you also, it brings you a lot of this presupposition. I'm not enough. It makes you strive for a lot, so it makes you probably very good in your career. But it also has this cost that you said, because now you also critically to somebody else. And this is how Socratic design explains it. The presupposition that you got is actually not yours, it's your culture, but it feels really you. And now you're carrying it and you're replicating it to other people. This is what a narrative does. This is what presuppositions do. We carry it with us. We don't even, it's not even ours, but we actually reproduce it to our children, to our colleagues, and to our friends. This is how strongly a presupposition is. So for you now is, of course, interesting to write this down. I will go into the first exercise, and to also make a different habit, just a small one. Because what is the different thing, the different thought, the opposite thought of I am not enough? It's very easy, right? I am enough.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
am
I'm
enough.
enough. Yeah, yeah. And you can design small habits how you can test these. There are a few. You can even say it to yourself a few times a day. It helps. It sounds really crazy, but I did it. It really strongly helps. You can write it down. But you can also think about what's happening in when I work when actually I'm not enough. For example, you're critically about somebody. Yeah, maybe do the opposite. And then the next question is, what did you felt? Because most of the times when you're doing these old habits from being critical to somebody because actually you want to be enough, you feel some tension. It's actually the old dopamine system. It's the old pain, which is replicating itself. It want to be repeated. So you being critically to somebody else. But you can. The thing about the dopamine system is you can train it into a different habit, but you have to train it. So you can. It's very easy to be addicted to wrong thoughts, to pain, but it's also possible to become addicted to positive habits, and you can change your thinking. So it works both ways. Only the system is more edged on pain, but it can also be edged on being a good human.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna thank you, Nina. Thank you. We're gonna wrap up to the first exercise, and it's gonna be like this. I want to explain it. I have a exercise ready in my thing. And I will walk you through it, but I put it in the chat. Let's go here. Here it is. So I want to give you, and it's also the coffee break, toilet break. Let's say we're on time. Actually, let's see the timeline. It's not quite over. I think. Oh, we're going great. Awesome, Martin. We're going great. Let's take 15 minutes, right? So we'll back at 10:30. Um, because it's much short exercise. I want to take a pen of paper or on your whatever you want to write it down, and you don't have to share it at all. You may, but you don't have to. So it's for you. It's your start of your personal narrative, uh, or your personal narrative inquiry. So be as honest to yourself as you can be. That's the value here. Yeah, you don't have to share it. You can burn it or you can delete it. You don't have to keep the camera on. You can sit somebody outside, whatever is good for you. And I give some bullets in the chat. You don't have to answer them all. But the first is try to find an addictive returning thought, something where you think about a lot. It can be something like Nina had or what I had. It can also be something similar. But if you don't know, you can ask me. You, in this 15 minutes, I stay here online. I'll also get a cup of coffee, but you can ask questions. The second thing is, can you make an analysis? Where did this thought come from? It's actually a presupposition. For Nina's example, I was not enough. Is the presupposition is I am not enough. For my, is the presupposition feelings are wrong, or I cannot disappoint, or I'm afraid to be alone. This is a presupposition. Try to find it and try to find the moment in your life or the moments in your life or the culture in your life where you as a child, mostly around 4, 5, 6 years old, actually designed this philosophy, designed this thought. There's maybe something happened, maybe there was a relation with your parents or with your brother siblings or something happened and it helped. Nina already had this analysis, but try to write it down why this little child, this little 4-year-old person or 6-year-old person designed this philosophy and why it was. It was because it needed to survive. It needed to go on with the group. So you had to make this thought. So that's you see this on the bullet, this pointers where you do. And maybe if you write this down, really honest, write it in the first subject. So I am or I feel or use the I. Maybe you might have a feeling or a different thought. Write this down, this feeling. What do you feel? And where do you feel it? That's interesting. Do you feel it in your ear? Or do you feel it in your shoulders? Or maybe in your heart? And what do you feel? This is we're gonna be more body conscious, more like an embodied consciousness, because this experience of your younger self is still stored in your body. As Bessel van der Kolk, that was a name. Bessel van der Kolk told us. And for some people, it's the first start to acknowledge that you have an addictive thought and to try to find where it is in your body. And if you feel that, sometimes more knowledge comes up. Try to write down more about the situation for your younger child. What is it? What did she or he experience? How was this philosophy strengthened? Was it mainly connected with a cultural narrative, mostly, for example, religion or certain tribes? Yeah, as we know from Nina, it's very easy to replicate presuppositions. So, is the presupposition, the addictive thought, is it maybe something that you inherited from your father or your mother or your culture? And do you still replicate it? And do you want that? The last question you can maybe forget for now, the metaphysical presupposition. We'll go into it later. All right, enough instructions for now. Let's take 50 minutes total. So I'm already talking again. So let's say 35 back. If you have questions, we'll see. You don't have to share it afterwards. Do it for yourself. So, see you in 50 minutes. It gives you a question exactly what the presupposition is. I didn't actually explain it. I will do it afterwards again, but exactly, it is a implicit assumption. It's very good if you found it. Assumption most people know, but an implicit assumption is actually most of the time you're not even conscious about this assumption. It's how you view the world. You don't even some people don't even know that they have this implicit assumptions, how they live their lives or why they're doing the actions. I mean, I already had this. It isn't already a presupposition that you know of, but some people have unconscious presuppositions. And with Socratic Design, the first start is to recognize your addictive thoughts. That is something that people can do, and try to make an analysis. What is the underlying presupposition under this addictive thought? So thank you, Roland, for for adding it. So now I'm getting my coffee back in 3. All right, welcome back, everybody. We'll slowly start up again, and don't worry, there will be a second break. I think maybe in an hour or so. So, congratulations, you started with your personal narrative. That might be a small step to a new part of your life to make it a little bit big. Some people this is not new. They did it all before. Maybe they had some coaching or even therapy, and it might feel a little bit the same. But for Socratic design, this is totally different. Uh, this is also what I recognize when I'm doing this in government circles. Where people say, "Oh, this is psychology. This is psychiatry." How do you say it? But we say no. It's totally different way around. This thought about that it's private, that's the problem in itself. I already explained this presupposition, this hidden assumption or this implicit assumption is something that you got in your childhood from an experience, a painful experience probably, or from your culture. It's actually not you. It's a narrative, and it's you carry it with you. And you already said it when Nina was courageous to come into the call that people related to this same presupposition. So it's actually not private. We say it's a cultural analysis that we do here. And the second is people can relate to each other on this thing. The experience might be different, but the presupposition, the addictive thought is the same. That's interesting. Um, when you write this down, you can also experience some feelings. It might feel painful. Then you're on the right track. If you feel that you're resisting to write down something that you actually want to write down, but you want to avoid it, or you want to ignore it, or you want to, if you have this feeling, this is not right, or then you're actually on the right track. So I invite you, if you're willing to go into this deeper. And with Socratic Design, we have some next steps, and that's actually doing it with somebody else, so you can explore each other's narrative. And will also be part in the second part of the training. So now you have your personal narrative, and I hope you might have had a connection to the cultural narrative. You're born in a culture, and then most of the presuppositions, most of the values you inherit from your culture or from your parents or from your family, and you're carrying with them. And some might be very good, and some might be maybe a hindrance, a disruption. And I want to take a step to the second two pillars. So now we have looked at the first pillar, and we know that addictive thoughts, what they are. We know that they're biological. We also know they are cultural. We know they are ingrained in us. And now we're going to make the step to the second two pillars. The second one was about listening. And I already explained that to truly listen to somebody, it's very helpful to not have your addictive thought, because your addictive thought is something which inhibits, I think it's a word, like, yeah, it, it disrupts or it blocks the art of listening. I'm going to do short exercise. The third pillar was about, or the third fallacy was the idea that we live in reality, but we actually live in a narrative, in a metaphysical narrative. Because also interesting to know that your personal narrative is also embedded in a much deeper narrative. We call this a philosophical narrative. Um, the narrative for people who live in the Western world, there are some very deep presuppositions, very deep assumptions who are active in our narrative. And I open the chat, and for those who want, who just everything is right, just what are the presuppositions in our Western world? Just type them in. Everything is right, or assumptions, or values. And if it's from a different part of the world, from Asia, write it down also. Oh, in Asia, this is a presupposition which is very strong. I'll give you some. time to write things down. Everything is welcome. So just put in more is better. Yeah, I will just write anything down. I will just go into a few. Mia writes, you create your own success. Yeah, money is what drives it all. Everything can be owned. Yeah, everything can be owned. That's interesting from Roger. Yeah, this is a very strong presupposition. The presupposition that property exists. There are a lot of cultures who have a truly opposite presupposition. But in the Western world, yeah, we have this presupposition thanks to Locke. I'll write him down. Locke. Let's see here. He was a American. He actually was part of the writing the American Constitution. You can imagine that people were coming from Europe, and they were the first colonists actually to settle down in America. And in the American Constitution is the presupposition property is holy, and this is still very important for people who owns a house. The existence of property or the value of property is very important in the West. Uh, it's also interesting to know that this also has a relation to slavery, because in the West we needed a rationality to excuse us from the barbarism of slavery. And what was the line of thought John Locke started? A black human does not own something, so it's not a human. A white man can own a black animal, as they might say. So you see how deeply runs this philosophy. Let's see. Yeah, if you fail, you are to blame. This is also an interesting. Um, if you fail, you are to blame. It's all up to you. Yeah, yeah, exactly this word, meritocracy. Yeah, actually, all these things about thinking that if you fail, you're alone. If you fail, you're to blame. There are actually two major presuppositions beneath this in our metaphysical sphere. The first we already acknowledged, the idea that the human is alone, a single agent, a rational agent. And that's what Descartes and other philosophers, but what the Enlightenment teaches us, that I think so I am. You're not only your thinking, so not your feeling. This is how the human view is. So you're rational, you're not a feeling animal or feeling conscious. This is a presupposition which is seen totally different by different philosophers. For example, Spinoza, he already sees the all human body as a human. And most people in different cultures, especially in Asia, Africa, they have a whole different thing about how they perceive the human. But the other thing is not about the border between your thinking and your feeling. It's also about the idea that you're an individual. Yeah? Uh, and with this comes a different presupposition, and that is that you are actually alone and that you should distrust others if you're in need of help. This is a very important philosopher. Who knows him? 5 points. If you write it down about trust and distrust, I will wait for 5 seconds. Can somebody start it down? No? 1, 2, 3. Oops. There you got it. And he wrote a very interesting book, The Big Leviathan, in 1651. And he actually had this presupposition that, and it's a very important thing, the war of everybody against each other. And this was a huge book, and it was an argumentation for big leaders, kingdoms, for sovereign leaders to be there, because it said that you need a government, otherwise the people will kill each other. That was like a flat analysis. But we still have it in our systems as governments, like a big architecture presupposition in a lot of systems, especially in healthcare and especially in police systems or in jail systems. people are to be distrusted. Distrust is a big presupposition. Excuse me, it's not everywhere, not on every people, but it's in our system, in our system of thought. Hobbes is very deep, and that is, and you can also maybe relate if you have a personal narrative which says, I want to be part of the group or I do not belong. It's connected with this deeper metaphysical sphere of Hobbes of distrust. Because the other way around is more the social, more trustworthy presupposition that you can fail and you're not to blame because you can always rely that you are part of the group and people will help each other. And it was already said, meritocracy, the strength of merit. It's also about success, but it's also about um, um, it is your personal, it's your personal responsibility to be successful. American presidents say this all the time, on the left and the right wing. You can make it if you try. Look at this sentence. I will write it down. You can make it if you try. This is, I think even Obama said it, but this is what Michael Sandel's addresses. This is a very problematic sentence. But what about the people who didn't make it, who are maybe poor or have, you know, didn't they try it? Yeah, exactly. People say poor because they're lazy. Uh, if you are starting a narrative as a culture where you're saying this kind of stuff, then people who did make it, who are probably have a better background most of the times, have time and money and privilege to study, exactly, they will look at people who didn't try or didn't make it as people who which are to blame for themselves. So people who are beggars on the street, it's their own fault, and we shouldn't pay taxes for them. You have this word in English, is also very hard. In Dutch, it's solidariteit, it's solidarity. I think solidarity, right? Yeah, solidarity. Uh, if you're saying the sentence, "You can make it if you try," you're actually damaging solidarity. There are cultures, for example, Native Americans. If somebody from their tribe is in need of help because they don't have resources to live, or they don't have time or space to be a valuable member for their society, it's the issue and the problem of the group. So the health of the tribe is about the ability for everybody to be a valuable member of the group. This is solidarity. It's been practiced in a lot of countries and cultures, but you see that the presupposition in most Western countries is distrust. You're a single agent, and you're personal responsible for being successful, and success is being related to being an academic study or being a good whatever. You know. So this you see how your personal narrative might collide with your cultural narrative and might collide with your with the more metaphysical narrative. So metaphysical narrative, I always said it. We got Hobbes, we got Descartes. I will write them down. We got Locke. Well, that's enough for now, I think. All right. See if I can address something else. Yeah, there's fundamental scarcity, also Locke, of Locke and Hobbes, of course. Hobbes, like scarcity is like the idea that if you're in need of resources, the other one will not give it to you, right? It's about distrust. Maybe I'm gonna go into a little bit on a sidetrack if I'm allowed. I'm looking also a bit to Marta, of course, but is it good? Yeah. Okay. We're also here in system innovations, and I will get back more to the concrete world of our livings. Like I'm working at the government and on a local level. And one line of thought is, how does Socratic design relate to, for example, system thinking? You know, in systemic in the system world, you have like this Meadows line of thinking. You have this Nora Bateson line of thinking, and actually Socratic design relates a lot to this both worlds. So if you follow Meadows thinking, Meadows was like one of the first female as well, systemic thinker. and she made an analysis of about systems. And the biggest way to leverage a system, to change a system, to transform it, is to go to this fundamental presuppositions. She calls it differences. She calls it, for example, I thought she calls it leverages, but it's fundamental leverages. And those are the same as the metaphysical sphere. So if you can change the system on hops, so you say we not do hops anymore, but we say we do a different philosopher, for example, Spinoza, you change the whole system, but you have to do it fundamental. And the interesting thing is, you can start by changing it in yourself. Tomorrow, when you walk to your city or to your community, try to be conscious about these presuppositions. How much hops do you see? How much architecture in the city is being designed on distrust? For example, in the Netherlands, you have all these gates now everywhere, and you have to show your public transport card, and the gate only opens if you show your card, for example. But we're doing radical different experiments, and we're making public transport free now for certain groups, and don't have to pay anything, but you don't have to prove that you're belonging to this group. It's a totally different experiment, totally different metaphysical sphere. All right, 10:50. I'm going to look a little bit to the timeline, if I'm right. Yeah, yeah, we're going to ramp up to the second exercise. Um, the second exercise will be about the second fallacy, or the second pillar, about listening. So the pillar was, you think that you listen, but it's very difficult to listen. I already explained it, that to truly listen, you have to be conscious, or it helps to be conscious about your own presuppositions. Um, because the presuppositions is a hindrance, your addictive thought is a hindrance to listen to somebody. We're going to do a exercise, and I'm going to do it with somebody first. And the exercise is very simple. I'm going to ask you somebody, what is your addictive thought? Or it can be a different question for what for you is a good, what is a good human being? She or he will tell something about it. Make it short, like 1 minute, 2 minutes. I, as the interviewer, will repeat what she or her said. And then when I did this, I will check with her or he, did I repeat it well? She will say no. Then I will ask again, okay, what did you said? And she or he will talk again. Then I will repeat it again and check, did I repeat it well? And then he or she will say, hopefully say yes. And then the only thing that I'm allowed to say, which is my own word, can you elaborate? Elaborate, go further with it. So the interviewer is only allowed to exactly copy the text what somebody said, check if it's right, repeat it again if you need it, and then ask to elaborate. He or she will elaborate again. Really try it. Don't say, "Oh, I don't know what to do." No, just try to interview go on, and the interviewer will again try it again. All right. First, I want to show it. This is called a Socratic light interview, and what it does is the act of to repeat somebody to is to it forces you to truly listen. That's one thing. And if you repeat it, the person that you interview will hear his or his or her own thoughts, which he actually spoke themselves, through the body of the interviewer, and that will start up new lines of thinking and feeling. And you can go and conscientiously could do it. We're gonna try it now later. First, we're gonna try it with somebody who wants to be a volunteer for this Socratic light interview to do a tryout. Let's see, Martin. So we got some volunteer. I will start with the for somebody to volunteer. Just a simple question: what is a good human life? So it's a very safe question. Who wants to be interviewed? It's not scared at all. See it as an opportunity.
I'll
I knew it, Roger.
seeing as nobody's talking,
Yeah.
I'd prefer just to go all in and go for the go for the personal
Yeah.
narrative because I did actually I don't really want to talk about kind of how I got there, the details, but I did have a bit of a hmm, that's really interesting moment
Yeah. Great. Great. Yeah. Great.
going through the exercise earlier on. So
Awesome.
yes, hold me gently.
Okay. I'll finish it. Well, let's see how far we get. Uh, um, so let's start it. Uh, just try it out. So, what is your addictive thought?
So I started with a combination of um, what Nina said earlier on. I'm not enough really resonated, and then I went from there to I'm afraid of my own power. In my mind, those two are associated with one another somehow.
Yeah. I'm going to repeat you now. So you say, I am not enough. I am afraid of my own power, and they are related somehow. Did I repeat you well?
That's what I said, yes.
Can you elaborate?
So, I mean, where I want to go with my elaboration is where I ended up in getting to a presupposition. So I sort of want to almost jump to the end and maybe come back, which is I wrote down relationships as sources of pain, so be careful. And then I wrote, wow, that's new. Um, so there's a lot in here about uh, somewhere on the journey, um, write down the thought your younger self might have made. Keep small, keep out of the limelight. Then others won't hurt you, and you won't hurt others. So there's a kind of going both ways here, but
Yeah.
with,
Uh,
yeah,
Thank you. So you're talking about you want to get more about your presupposition. And then you talked about, you wrote down about relationships. That was a
mm,
source of pain. Be careful. That's new. There's a lot in here. Talked about it's the journey. And then you're going to others don't want to hurt you, and you will not hurt others. Did I repeat you well?
yeah, I think so. I mean, there's definitely an underlying motivation to
You elaborate?
avoid hurting other people. And then this kind of strange underlying sense that there's always the danger of one or other being hurt in a relationship. Therefore, tread very carefully in relationships.
All right. You say you want to avoid hurting other people. There's always a danger the one or the other will be hurt or become hurt.
Mm,
And be careful in relationships.
mm,
Did I repeat you well?
you did.
Can you elaborate?
Well, I find my elaboration going backwards rather than forwards to this feeling like this being rooted in early experiences in family, much more about watching dynamic, a family dynamic, not really involving me, but other people, and thinking, I don't want to behave like that because that looks like that behavior is hurting the other, and dealing with that by withdrawing rather than stepping in. And then I guess and then also then seeing that pattern play out and somehow preferentially noticing interactions between people where things are going wrong, one is trying to dominate the other or whatever, which plays out in our cultural narrative all the time, rather than tuning into where it's working well, and you've got, constructive, loving, mutually supportive relationships, which have also been part of my life and my context. But it's just really, really fascinating to notice how I focus in on the or work harder to avoid the downsides rather than historically anyway. I think probably this is shifting quite radically for me over the recent years, but
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
So you feel that it's not going further, but rather backwards, this analysis? The feeling about that is rooted in earlier experiences in family. You talk about the family dynamic. It's not me, but other people. You're not dealing with it, but you're withdrawing in it. Rather than stepping in. And you're seeing that pattern now, how it plays out. And rather than tuning in, so you can have more like a constructing loving relationships. So you experience that you're feeling more the downside. Did I repeat you well?
You did. You do a good job of capturing it. Thank you for listening.
Can you elaborate?
Well, I guess can I elaborate? I feel like I'm feeling a level of kind of warmth, which sort of indicates a bit of honesty, I guess, getting closer to something important. And I think actually the ability to choose, my ability to choose is interesting. And I'm now remembering the thing about being afraid of my own power. That's only linked to the narrative that interactions between human beings result in one or the other side being hurt. It's a win-lose narrative here, I guess, which ridiculously dominates my choice making, fascinatingly.
So you experience a level of warmth, honesty. You experience the ability to choose. The ability to choose is interesting. Be afraid of my own power. You think now in a win or lose system. Thank you, Roger. That will be it for now. Thank you for
releasing me. Been in the goldfish bowl. Interesting process. Thank you.
Yeah, only in 10 minutes. You can see the connection between the personal narrative, writing it down on an individual level, and do it on one-on-ones on a Socratic Light interview. I wrote down with you, right? Because then to really store the words that you told me, because there's a lot of power in language, people know. And maybe for a small experience, because I did it for 10 minutes, did you had some new insights? Well, you told me in the interview, but what are your new insights now by doing this way of connection as two humans become one single collective intelligence? What would you say?
I would say I think the uh, your manner is critically important. How people meet one another. So Nora Bateson makes reference to the aesthetic of the inquiry. What's the aesthetic of this inquiry? And the aesthetic of this inquiry felt to me to be just an openly explorative with absolutely no judgment, which is probably partly in the repeating of the words. It's like, well, you're not adding anything. You're just you're just mirroring back, but clearly you're adding loads because that process is an addition. And I mean, what I think it's experiencing the power of either or assumptions. That was what was coming up
Yeah.
for me there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The interesting thing is it goes both ways, this method. So, as the interviewer, because I can only repeat, I can actually not have an assumption.
Mm.
And if you feel, as an interviewer, you feel an assumption coming up, you want to add something or you want to ask a different question, that is my presupposition because I want to be empathic or I want to avoid the pain or
You want to help.
you want to help. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You truly help by truly listen.
Yeah.
And you're gonna try this afternoon with a colleague, or it is a very useful intervention in any meeting. If somebody high in power just talks a lot, say, let me repeat you exactly, and then this person will be seen because he's trying so hard his whole life to be seen and talking so much. See him just by repeating him, and then you have a true human connection.
Martin, is that a comment to Dennis? You did say interesting. you bit.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I won't pretend that I'm the perfect.
So maybe it's something boring. Heard this before.
Right. Good point to go to the one-on-ones, right? Say. Okay, we're gonna try this in couples. This is a technical, challenge. We're gonna give you 25 minutes. So 5 minutes for a break and 10 minutes each. So we're gonna do by Zoom. We're gonna put you in duos, I think couples. We're gonna do it in a few minutes, and then the first one starts with a question, and the other one 10 minutes long. And really try to do it. That's important here. So Roger already did. Like you say, if you say elaborate, try to really elaborate. Talk about what comes to your mind, what comes to your body, and try to honestly say that. It's not being recorded, so that helps. And because you're totally unknown to each other, you can do two questions and have a bit discussion. Do you want to do the addictive thought line, which might be too private for you? Don't choose it. Or just have the question, what is a good human? What is a good human? A really old philosophical question. What is good to be human? And this is more like a safe way. Yeah. So have a look at. The only problem is there's a lot of many people in the call. I don't even know how much. I cannot even see it. 24. It might be that somebody's in a car or in a train only listening. That might happen. Then just come back to the main room, and then we'll do here a short session as well. If you like 3 again, maybe we can make sure. I don't know. So if that's clear, it's now 11:10 in my time. We come back at 11:35, including 5 minutes break. and truly do. Everybody is every person, 10-minute Socratic Light interview. I will give the instructions again in the chat in the middle. Then, Isaac, is Nicole or Maarten, you do this? This is gonna be this is for me, this is the most, let's divide everybody in couples. Let's try it.
Yes, it's automatically, and as said, you might be with 3 people, because I can't assign it just for 2.
That's no problem. Then
Gezellig, we say in Dutch.
then work it out, and then somebody observes. Yeah, that's fine too. I'll do the exercise.
I think we might be put in a room too, Dennis. Let's see.
I'll just ignore it. Maybe come back.
I couldn't see a feature. Or not.
3 rounds. Oh.
It's the most wondrous feature always. Like you get like ripped out of one cyber space to another.
Yeah, that's interesting always, huh?
Why Nina, Christian, Midiori, and Bei Wang are not in a room? I don't know.
But we can make this a room.
Oh, Rosalyn is ook terug. Oh, we're jumping. We're jumping.
What happened, Rosaline? Can we help?
There was nobody in my
Maybe that was maybe me. I just
Als je kan naar room 10. Daar is nu 1 persoon.
Oké, helemaal niemand bij. Dankjewel.
Can you access rooms? How does it work? Just
Yeah, I see an overview of all room and who's where.
You can you can place people.
Oh yeah, and Dennis and Rosalind, you are in room 6. I see that now.
Yeah, it was me. It was me.
Well, let's see.
Can you connect then people with somebody, Martin? Is it possible? We have time, hè? We have 5-minute break.
Moet ik iets doen, Maarten, of moet ik gewoon rustig afwachten?
Ja, nee, ik doe het wel voor je. Ik ga even snel dingen. Ik ga naar kamer 2 doen. Rosalind, kamer 2. Een keer opzoeken. Rosalind, move to kamer 2. Boom. Going.
Ja, zo.
Een minuutje altijd. Oké. We hebben Dennis zitten. Dus jij zit lekker in kamer 6, Dennis. Dus daar blijf je in je eentje. En Christian is nog alleen. Even kijken, waar is er nog meer eentje? Nee, dat ben ik niet. Ik gooi Christian naar room 9. Christian, ik moet even hardop zeggen, anders doe ik het verkeerd. Oké, nu als het goed gaat, gaat het. Bai Wang, are you okay? Nina, are you okay? Let us know.
Yeah, I think for me it's just my internet connection is not so good, so I didn't receive information regarding which room I was allocated at all. So but when I came back, seems like the breakout room is already finished. So I don't know which room I'm.
If I can put you in the room. Hey, I think you can. I just don't know the interface wise, because it says that you're in room 1, so you can just join that. If you have a.
I don't know how to join it. I don't have any.
There are on the bottom. There is an interface choice. Or Dennis, can you see how it works in your interface? Because I break out rooms, but then I have a different interface as a host.
Let me check. I never did it. Oh yeah, there's like on the downside, if I have a laptop, of course, so there's like a button which where you can have more.
Nina kan ook Nederlands, toch? Ik kan het ook in Nederlands doen.
Nederlands? Oh, okay.
Toch, Nina?
I joined breakout room. Yes, I saw it on the dot. Oh yeah, yes. Yeah. I'm in room 9. Okay, yes.
You have
room 1 is for you, Nina. Boom. Something's happening. Oh no, that was something else. And a bay left.
And we have Hannah back here.
Oh,
Hi, Hannah.
yeah, Hannah, because Hannah and Nina were in room 1, but that didn't work.
No, yeah, I
So,
ended up in this room.
yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put you both in room 6, and then it should work. And
Great, thanks.
good luck. Oh, and Laura is back. Oh, and it's gone again. Nina, you should be moving. Nina, do you see anything? It's okay to turn on your mic and your camera. So I see that you're not joining here on this side. Oh, I hate de machteloosheid over die tooling nu.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, Nina. You can talk to us.
Nina
Is
kan ook hier blijven met mijn interview. Heel goed.
Yeah. Yeah, but now also Hannah, who was here earlier, is alone in room 6.
Oké. Nou, dan zeg maar even tijd hoor. We hebben ruim de tijd. Dus als we bij elkaar kunnen komen, zou het perfect zijn. Het kan ook wat korter, het interview.
Ja.
Moeten we nog de instructies denk ik posten? Of was wat duidelijk, toch?
Ja, doe maar even. Ik ga even naar Hannah.
Back again because there's no one showing up in the room, so I might just go grab myself some lunch because it's
Nina
just me.
is in the call here. I don't know if Nina. I do see your picture.
It might just be that I'm on a browser, not an app.
Yeah, it
So might
should
something
be a
have
problem.
something to do with it.
Of course, this is not my. I'm not experienced in this kind of stuff.
No, but it's yeah. Everyone else is occupied. I've done these kind of exercises before, so it's sort of a little process.
What is your wish? You can also try it with me if you want, but
yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to be recorded. So
oh yeah, it's a
okay,
record.
but I'd rather just run down and fetch myself some lunch.
Sure.
This is
Feel free to
working.
do. Yeah,
Of
course, no problem.
I see that Nina and Han came here. So maybe you want to lead them, Dennis. I think they might like that.
Yeah. Han is taking a lunch break.
Ah, okay.
Nina, we can do an interview here, Nina, if you want.
I'm also going to run away for a little bit.
Sure.
And we're back. Ik hoor je niet.
Thanks. Classic. Recorded classic.
Yeah.
We will be back at 10 minutes. We will share some experiences.
Yes.
Closing the loop with the 3 fallacies, and then we'll talk more about what we're doing at the City of Amsterdam, making the jump to connecting with different cities.
Yeah. I'll be at the Stopera at 1:30. I have a date with Minouche. So if you're there too, we can have coffee.
And right here.
Very good. It's my first time back.
Yeah.
So I have to run off after this session because I also have to go to the OVG to do a blood thing.
Okay.
This
is not private, huh? This is for the world.
I don't. Oh, your privacy remark totally triggers me. I'm gonna go into that. That's a new goal. Because I so believe that, and I so see the wrongness of the privacy movement, but I've never been able to articulate why. And you gave me some pointers.
Yeah.
I don't feel it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so strong because it's ingrained with pain and shame and awkwardness. So it strengthens the idea of the individual human. Yeah.
Hi, Kisa, or Kesa. We are almost done with the training, as in we have an hour left.
I
We're
know.
2 hours
I'm
in.
so sorry. It's 5 o'clock here. Look, I thought I was gonna be open earlier, and I was like, "Dang, I missed it."
But you were welcome to stay, and
yeah, I will. I want to listen and see and what tool. I just wanted to hear what you guys were talking about, what tools you use, how you set things up.
Sure. Welcome, Kisa, and keep listening. For you, we have the whole group is now doing an exercise in the duos. I don't think it's in the English word. Couples, one-on-ones. They're all now in breakout rooms. We will returning in 11:35 in 9 minutes. But yeah, feel free to join in, and it's actually okay because. We will start by people sharing some experience with the exercise. It's a listening exercise. People have to interview each other, and the interview is very simple. You have to repeat the other, and then the other person has to elaborate on it further, and for 10 minutes long. And with this exercise, all the ideas of Socratic Design, the methodology that we're practicing right now, are coming together. That you have to truly listen is very difficult because most of the time when you're listening, you're already thinking what you want to say. Sometimes it's even your addictive thought that you have to say something or you're afraid to say something. And the third pillar of Socratic Design is about the narrative. That we're actually living in a narrative full of presuppositions. And with the interview that we're doing right now, you're actually exploring your own personal narrative. And some people might become conscious how it relates to a more cultural narrative or religious narrative, and how it relates to a more broader dominant narrative that's actively in our history of our world, or in Western society, or African or Asian societies. So Socratic Design tries to becomes conscious about the intertwinement of all these levels of a narrative, and that you can transform them, that you can design them, because we learn that presuppositions, these hidden assumptions, are ingrained in your body by a experience in your most of the times around 4 or 6 years old in your childhood. And these presuppositions, you carry them with your life and you replicate them to your context, to others. So the narrative is expanding or can be given through generations. And we have to raise the question, is this presupposition helpful for you? Does it function you? Or is it a hindrance? And can I change it? And I will say it also in the call is now it's in Socrates, the philosopher, is also known. He actually didn't read it. He didn't write anything himself, but it was on a temple. It was the wisdom. If you know thyself, you know everybody. And this is crucial. If you know your own personal narrative, if you know your own assumptions and presuppositions, then you can recognize them in other people. You can do a inquiry on other people, and then transformation starts. But it's also useful on a more systemic level. You are becoming conscious how many huge presuppositions are active in the systems that we live in: social systems, energy systems, economic systems, educational systems. Because in these systems, a lot of presuppositions are at work on a very fundamental level. For example, the presupposition you are not to be trusted, or the presupposition property exists, or money exists, or the presupposition a human is a individual. And systemic research teaches us to change those presuppositions, but to change them, you first have to change yourself or be conscious of yourself that you're also a harness full of presuppositions. So the personal narrative is really intertwined with the transformation of huge, big systemic narratives. And of course, laws have to be changed, huge procedures and governments has to change, but it does also change with yourself. And I truly believe that if we do this collectively, as a collective wisdom or a collective intelligence, that we are trying to start to change in multiple organizations, in multiple communities. And how to do it is actually very easy. Become conscious of your own narrative first. Be humble that you carry presuppositions. And in this humbleness, you can connect with different people, different projects, different different makings of laws, even European laws, or from a European perspective, of course. But so they're all intertwined. And with Socratic Design, you can ask these questions.
Anna is back already too, and Anwar.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I ended up in a room with no one again.
Oh no.
So since I was very hungry, I ran down to get some lunch. Just I did ended the opportunity.
I
But
came
think,
prepared.
yeah, it's very well thought out. I think it's very interesting to the know thyself. You will know everyone, and I just find that the more we are into the social media or artificial intelligence or whatnot, the less we know ourselves.
Exactly.
So I think the systemic change that you're talking about, Dennis, that's going to be very exciting, but the steepest hill we've ever gone up.
Sure. I won't say it's easy, but the solution is actually easy but painful.
Yeah.
Social media is a invention, like all technology, which the society asked about. It was in search of this technology. We really have to understand that technology is a product of a human narrative.
Yeah.
The human narrative was, especially in America, but also in the Netherlands, is, and you already saw it in the chat, like, I am responsible for my own success.
Yeah.
And success relates to beautiful journeys, high careers. Like if you see the pictures in social media, 80% of the sun is shining. The perfect world. Well, a lot of books are about this.
Yeah.
but it's the presupposition that I'm an individual and I need to be successful. If you change those presuppositions, for example, I'm not an individual, but I am a collective, and I don't have to be afraid to be outside by my collective because I trust other people to be also social human beings, and the social presupposition, not the individual presupposition, then you actually don't need social media anymore for this very social desire to be acknowledged by the other. So you can change it by just trust on the idea or on the presupposition that people will acknowledge you. The anxiety or the fear to not be acknowledged, to not be seen as a human being, is the crucial part why social media is so successful. Connected with the dopamine system. You know, the thumbs up, the hearts, you can see them already here. You know, I feel flattered. Oh, you get a heart. I want more, you know. But actually, just have to trust that what you're doing is good and it's good enough. And social media is really like eating on this desire for every human to be seen. Because we're afraid that we're individual.
I don't remember whether the author Rutger Bregman, is he Dutch or Belgian?
Dutch, yeah.
I think he is one of those pulling in that direction of.
Sure. Yeah.
Most people are good. Most people are good. We should remember that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I will close the. Sorry, it's 35, right? So I need to close it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just gonna do it.
True, Hannah. That's one of the writers who pointing that direction. And yeah, it's a very easy way to introduce him. The Socratic Design does add a deeper level because it researches your inner self, your inner presuppositions about fear, trust. Yeah, and try to transform it there. But the book of Rutger Bregman, of course, is very helpful to read because it shows that on a systemic level that we are distrusted. He also mentions Hobbes, I think, in this book.
Yeah, he mentions several several studies and several philosophers showing how people in power have chosen to frame certain things in a certain manner that has increased the individuality and competition. And our Western, I don't know.
Yeah, I will. Great that you mentioned it. I will talk about more about fear. That's an interesting feeling. Fear and hope. Okay, if the technical, it's always interesting how many people stay in the call. Everybody back, Marta? Can you see this?
There's 60 seconds, so slowly everybody will come on.
People have to time to wrap up.
So I still see Jarne, Rosalind, Anwar, Ken, Roger, Bernd, Roland. Some
still in the
people
interview.
But technically, they should be, the room should be demolished soon.
Okay, first, just add in the chat. Just add in the chat, and it doesn't have to be about the interview, but just what did you experience? Was it nice? Was it hard? Just type anything what you want, and can just talk a bit about it. Was it difficult? Was it hard for you to not be empathic? You know, oh, I also have this feeling, or all this kind of. Let's just see. Just share something in the chat if you want, or talk just to the audio. Let's see.
You're stuck in the room. Huh?
Stuck in the room. Let's see.
They should be back.
So the question is, if you want to share some experience about the interview, how did it go? Yeah, it's rather hard just to repeat and not validate or add. What about paraphrasing? Yeah, here this is of course the it's rather hard. That's correct. There are some practical things, just that the person who's talking has to keep it a little bit short. But of course, paraphrasing is a little bit allowed, as long as you do not, as Roger already mentioned, do not have any assumptions on it. Yeah. There was a value experience. Yeah, exactly. Both as the person sharing and the practitioner. Exactly. This is the key point here. It has value for both persons. The person who listens is truly being seen, but maybe the person who did the interview, the practitioner, is released of her or his addictive thoughts as well. It is actually a pleasure to, or like a good feeling, a human feeling, to be able to listen to somebody without having to assume anything or to add anything. Just listen. It's actually a very nice experience, a very human experience. Oh, well, I was trying when I was to take the copy from. I was worrying about yeah, yeah, exactly. Of course, keep it a bit short. Yeah, it was really hard and stay away from my own opinions, away from my own curiosity. Yeah, exactly. Opinions and curiosity, right? So opinions can be positive or negative. Curiosity is mostly a positive, right? You're just interesting. But this is where the individual comes up, the individual presuppositions. If you're in a conversation, mostly, for example, in a restaurant or in a bar, you notice that conversations go just from one side to the conversation. Oh, I've went to this. I have this experience in this country, in France, and you see. Oh, I've been in France too. Oh, I've been to a restaurant. Oh, restaurant. What do you like for food? This is normal conversation we experience every day. It goes all the ways. But the interesting thing is just stay on the topic, stay on her or his topic. Um, uh, and it's very normal as a human that you really want to, be curious about something. But this is your curiosity, and it's your individual desire to be curious, and it's your desire to be empathic about somebody's experience. But it's very interesting to change it to make it very, I'll say it pure, to be the practitioner, the listener. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to be 100% focused. Yes, it takes a lot of energy. The good news is you can practice it and it becomes easier. And it's a very useful competence in your work and even in your relationship to truly listen. The reason why it takes energy is because normally your brain is doing just listens half of it, all right? But now you have to really constrain yourself to truly listen, because underneath in your body it wants to do different stuff. It wants to elaborate. It wants to be curious. It wants to be critical. It wants to be have an opinion about it. That is what you normally do. That is your how you work. But with this interview, you have to suppress this and truly listen. All right. Oh, there's a question from Christian. We have a question about the request to elaborate. Is it about what the person just shared in its entirety, or about a lot? Yeah, it doesn't really matter. The idea is that the people who's being interviewed is trying to he makes like a new line of thought, and as the practitioner or the interviewer, you just facilitate this making a new line of thought. So to be elaborate can be from the last part or it can be from the whole interview. Doesn't really matter. As long as more insights come up and then you become aware of something that you didn't really know, and then you transform because you become conscious of something. That's the idea of this interview. Got it, thanks. All right. 11:40. I hope everybody did also a little break. We're going to the last part of the training. Also, feel free to question. We have like 45 minutes left. For the last part, I want to go into a bit more philosophical, which is important these times, about fear and hope. Um, and then I'll keep it short, and then I will talk more about what we do in the city of Amsterdam, because my intention here is also to connect with different cities, different humans, and different organizations to, yeah, maybe make a corporation in the future. Or I'm very curious if other cities also try to change the narrative on this deep metaphysical level, and sharing lessons. For me, as a civil servant, it helps a lot if I know that a other different city in the world is doing similar kind of stuff. It helps because Socratic Design is a beautiful methodology, but you can only truly experience it if you can truly understand it, if you experience it. Because it's also about feeling. So it helps in my argumentation to my aldermen and my major and my directors in this building, the city hall. If I can say, yeah, Amsterdam, we're doing it. But it's also in Paris, and it's also in, I don't know, Beijing or Jakarta or wherever you are. So first, I want to talk about fear and hope because it's very crucial in these times. I already mentioned these crises. Some people, some journals, I think it's The Guardian or it was the New York Times, already said that now we are in the age of fascism. Fascism, Nazism, Stalinism, of course. They say that we're now in an age which maybe looks quite similar around 1930, before the Second World War in Europe. And Socratic Design addresses this as well. You see that in the presuppositions, in the personal narrative, feelings of fear are there, feelings of anxiety, and this is very culture. It's very dominant in our in most narratives, in politics, in government. It's rooted on Hobbes, right? The fear that you cannot trust the other. That's a fear. And there's one philosopher who addresses this fear. There's Spinoza, Dutch philosopher, Spinoza, and of course, I don't know if somebody can know. They're like, what's that? It's Hannah Arendt. And those are two important, again, Spinoza always with Hannah Arendt as well, because Hannah Arendt makes the analogy, the connection between fear and the ability of a leader or a organization to stand up and introduce fascism, or a difficult word, totalitarianism. It's like you all have to believe in the same thing, right? Total ideology, like Nazism or Stalinism. And Socratic Design is important now because in Europe, and also in I think in America, maybe different parts of the world, I will not say, but is facing this time again that we all have to think, we're closing the gap to fascism, even be more controlled by technology right now. And fascism is only possible with fear. And Hannah Arendt writes that the reason that we are afraid is because we are lost from community and the world. So we're unrooted from our social context, from religion, from community, and we are unrooted from the world, from nature, from making our own stuff, from the production lines of food. And this two sides of Entfremdung in German, vervreemding in Dutch, I think the estrangement in English, is causing us to become afraid and alone. Alone, not solitude, that is needed as an individual to think clearly, to have solitude, but loneliness and fear. And then an ideology comes around the corner and says, you don't have to be afraid. It's all the fault of that other group. And in this shared fear of the other group, we find again social connection. But the foundation is fear. So every human being has the desire to have social connection, to have a social narrative, to have a social community, but on good presuppositions, for example, the value of a human, the value of community, the value of nature, or whatever you might call it. But fascism is grounded on the desire to be socially connected, but then founded on the fear of the other, the distrust of the other. This is very important now. And with Socratic Design, we try to show that fear is something which is rooted in our own personal narratives and in our culture and in our organizations and even on our metaphysical system, all grounded on Hobbes. And if you transform it, you can transform it on the personal level, you can transform it in an organizational level, you can transform it on a more like a physical level. And that is I think, one of the major things that we have to do if we want to address fascism, the rise of fascism, as New York Times says it. The different opposition of fear is hope. Hope. And this is always also what Spinoza tells us. Spinoza says you have two decisions, or either fear or hope. And then, as a civil servant, like me, I have the moral responsibility to hope. And hope is not like a naive thing, but hope is like the presupposition that a human is a good human, that I can trust on society, that good will come. Yeah. And it changes my actions. I can act here in City Hall from fear that I will escape responsibility. I will, lay low. I will not talk to my superiors or be critically about my superiors if they are saying something which is not right or not wrong. But hope gives me strength. It's my moral responsibility to act as a civil servant. And that is where my power is, to be, open the dialogue to truth, to the right way. So fear and hope, very interesting feelings and emotions, which are very strong in our organization and in our city. So now more to the practical side. How do we use Socratic Design in the City of Amsterdam? I can talk about many projects, but the methodology first, a bit more about how we organize this. It's a methodology, and that means that we organize it in the City of Amsterdam, and we are a big organization. We have 25,000 employees. 25,000 is huge, it's a small town. And we use this methodology on several levels, but easier for now, for this call, for this training, is to see this in two ways. The first way is the classic way, it's a top-down way. That is that if an alderman or a major has the request for a vision on any topic, what we do is we try to use Socratic Design to make the vision. And how do we do this? We do this with a Socratic Design dialogues. And it's you have a lot of different Socratic dialogues in the world, but the Socratic Design dialogue is different because we use this way of repetition in the dialogue. So, for example, if I'm in the dialogue with you, with like say 10 people, if somebody has the floor, somebody talks, for example, Marta tells something for only 1 or 2 minutes, the other one who wants to elaborate on it, so now the interviewer has to repeat first what Marta says and then has to go on. So this thing of repetition used in dialogues. We do these dialogues in cities with civil servants and citizens together, sometimes only civil servants, civil citizens, like 10 dialogues. And these basically dialogues, these are the ingredients for this vision. So that's one way we use it. And we do all days where we do a lot of presupposition research, as we've done here early in the call. And we make an analysis of what kind of presuppositions are active in this kind of topic. For example, sustainability. The hindrance in sustainability is, for example, the presupposition that property exists, for example. And we try to shift it to the whole way around. What's like the shift from property exists, property does not exist, and then you come in what we call the commons domain, right? The collective domains, the cooperation domains. So we try to make fundamental shifts in the vision, fundamental shifts on the metaphysical side. In the social domain, a very dominant presupposition is, of course, Hobbes, do not to be distrusted. Our healthcare system is deprived of this, is unfortunately ingrained with a lot of presuppositions of distrust. So we try to make a vision which is everybody should be trusted. Like we try to change the architecture, social architecture. So that's one way we make visions with the city. But the other way is bottom up, that we also do Socratic design with a lot of communities. So I'm a trainer. I train civil servants, but I also train civilians, citizens, and I train communities to do their own inquiry, their own narrative inquiry, and from that inquiry, make a new future, a preferred future of their neighborhood. And then this vision, which is owned by the citizens themselves, is this process is facilitated by the government. So here you see a change what I try to do here in the city of Amsterdam. I try to, on the other hand, make this top-down visions, which the government asks anyway, and try to make them with dialogues with citizens. But the other way is interesting, that the government is facilitating the development of neighborhoods with Socratic design. Citizens design their own narrative, their own culture, actually. But they have to first also research their own personal narrative and their own culture narrative. Here in the city of Amsterdam, we have many cultures. I think 180 or something. It's a lot. So we have a lot of African cultures, a lot of Asian cultures. All the world is here represented almost. And they all bring their presuppositions. Every culture has presuppositions, very good ones, and also some which are a bit of a hindrance. And we call this research on their own culture a striptease. It's a nice word. We think about a different things about striptease, but it's a nice word because it sticks to the mind. We striptease the culture, and that we do with citizens together, and it's a very vulnerable way, but it's a very healing process. As you see now, a lot of we still have a lot of, for me as well. I'm also from a colonial family. I'm Indonesian, for example. But in the city of Amsterdam, a huge thing that we still have to address is the pre-colonial pain, which is not addressed yet. The colonialism has ingrained a lot of presuppositions in the cultures, and which are very dominant here. The presupposition of fear, the presupposition of distrust. It's still a lot of with being from a colonial family. For example, for me, from an Indonesian family, the presupposition of fear is very dominant. So that's the bottom-up approach. Maybe, Marta, it's nice now to have some questions maybe about how do we use Socratic design in the city of Amsterdam. Can maybe have a bit of discussion so I can maybe feel where the requests of information lies, because it's a bit difficult to talk about this like mono stream for 30 minutes.
Well, actually, I have a question for everybody then, based on this. Is who is involved in city work one way or the other, apart, of course, from living in one? Do we have any civil servants or related to civil service?
I do. I do civic design.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, do you have a question?
How to use this in city? I'm telling you, it really depends on the leadership. That is pretty tricky because it's a lot of politics. Even on the local level, you really have to get some buy-in from the leadership. I can see it being used. I see some of these levers being used when you do like large design charrettes, but that doesn't mean that it's a part of the operational function of how the city moves. Usually, you could probably use some of these levers and methods and techniques when you bring the community members in or other stakeholders, and you're having these charrettes that could last up to like 8 to 12 months. But operationalizing it, that would take all of us to figure out.
So how we do have a project now running. It's called Future Lab. It's actually in English. You can Marta have the link. Yeah. the question there was, we want to develop new houses. It was a housing project. And we try to do, like normally from city planning, Kisa, you will recognize. First, a architect will come, or a city planner will come, and he will, draw all these rectangles and maybe even buildings on it. We did it relatively the different way around, and this was the shift. Not first physical architecture, but first social architecture. And with social architecture, we mean, what are the values of the neighborhood? What are the presuppositions of the neighborhood? So the Western narrative is first to design a city on a physical level, like the facades, the squares, the roads, the buildings, the functions. Say no, first we're going to design the social infrastructure, the social domain, as you might say. And the process was very simple. It's takes a lot of time, but it is to get the community together, and with Socratic design dialogues and with narrative inquiry on a cultural level and on a personal level, the product was a vision for the neighborhood. How does it look like? How does it feels like? What are the presuppositions which must be dominant? Which negative presuppositions do we want to address and even want to lose, maybe? And what kind of habits do we need? For example, if the presupposition is a human is a social human being, a social animal, it can transform into a habit. Okay, so we acknowledge each other, we see each other. That means that we greet each other on the street, for example, as a habit, as a appointment almost. So you can design the social world, you can design your society, and that's design. Then you start designing the physical domain. So we changed it around. Very interesting processes. I hope the livings will be built anytime soon. You can follow the project on the online. Yeah, Maarten already called it futurelab.amsterdam. The question of Maarten.
I reframed it a little bit, Kisa's remark.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share a little bit in the 7-year journey, like how did you and the team become part of the city's operations? Because the powers that be have a whole different agenda, mostly.
Yeah.
So how do we get this in the body of the city?
Yeah. So for example, to create new neighborhoods, to create new building, for example, especially in Amsterdam, it's a very political topic, more livings, more housing. The presupposition in that domain is efficiency, speed, money, all these kind of presuppositions, but also the presupposition people want to live alone, for example, the individually principle. There are a few lines how we address this. So if you look at what we do with Socratic Design, we act on multiple layers at once. But I think the strongest point is just find a project, a true project, and start from there, and start from the citizens, from the people who live there. And there you start to make the movement. And then people higher up in hierarchy, they will change, they will see. But of course, I've been doing this movement with a lot of other colleagues broader for the last 7 years in the government. So it becomes more like known or more like accepted that we slow down projects, that we first listen to the community, that we do all these sessions to make this vision based on presupposition. So it's becoming more accepted now and then. And also the connection is made that to participate in this kind of projects is a very democratic value. So it's becoming more known that democracy as a value, is very important. And why I say this, that for citizens, if citizens participate in any project, they have the feeling that they own it, and that they have a democratic feeling, And this feeling of democracy, the feeling being valuable for a bigger than your own, to be valuable for your community, is actually as valuable as the houses that you build. So you see more and more in our city that there is a recognition of both these values: the value of the process of democracy, the participation, and the value of the living, which the houses, the project that you make, which are being even more valuable in itself because they are designed by humans, because people will live there, people will do more to make it a more healthy and more strong neighborhood. Was that the question raised, Marta? Did I answer it well?
Well, at least my question.
Okay.
And how I reframed it first.
Yeah.
But maybe there are other questions too. Let's make use of the brain picking and whatever you triggered. So please, people, take the floor.
Yeah.
Either chat or open up your mic because we're a
Yeah.
small group. We know each other well now.
Yeah.
Christian has a question.
How closely does your approach align with shared agendas? I'm not aware of shared agendas, but I came here to learn. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit what shared agendas. I can of course have an idea about it, but maybe Christian, can you elaborate a little bit about shared agendas? Maybe we can make a connection.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm in a
Yeah.
public place.
Yeah.
But
I hear
shared
you good.
agendas is basically I'm based in Barcelona, and so I learned about it here because the Catalan government uses shared agendas to address challenges, place-based challenges that are being experienced, wider ranging types of challenge from health to housing to the elderly,
Yeah.
education, and so on. Projects that are originally driven by community entities, right?
Yeah.
And so shared agendas as a framework, it really helps you address governance. So how do you align the different actors around a
Yeah.
place-based challenge? Usually the whole process is initiated by community groups who are maybe already doing something outside of the current system that is doing all it can to maintain the power and control. So how do you begin to introduce this initiative to begin to change the system? So how do
Yeah.
you create that alternative? So what you were saying about coming from the bottom up, meaning
Yeah.
citizens or community projects or groups, kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I know that people who 10 years ago, the individual who 10 years ago, she's really known in those spaces throughout Europe, who introduced it within the Catalan government. She's
Yeah.
really made a go with it. And I
Yeah.
trained in it because it sounds a lot like some of the facilitation work that I do. So just
Yeah.
wanted to know
Yeah.
your thought on
Thank,
that.
thank you, and I will research it on the further. Yeah, it has a very similarities. Of course, I'm not in depth knowledge about, but what you tell me, it has a lot of similarities, but maybe there might be a bit differences as well. So I'm aware of what happens in Barcelona. It's a very strong movement, very good. Um, Maybe to start first, the issues that are in, or the challenges, let me say challenges, the challenges that we see in a lot of major cities, capital cities, with Socratic Design, we say it's all part of our thinking about the narrative. So we really go deep into this. So if the shared agenda also had this angle, that's interesting. So what we do is we make a shared agenda, a vision on presuppositions. What are the presuppositions that caused us in the beginning that we have these issues that we have to tackle on the shared agenda? So we make a very deep analysis. We do that on a systemic level, on an organizational level, on a city level, but also on a personal level. And we try to make a new narrative. And it might be that in this new narrative, old issues are no issues anymore. For example, the issue of elderly. In many Western capitals, the elderly are an issue. In many other narratives around the world, the elderly are the most important resource. That is, it's just a narrative. So can we change that? So then the common agenda is maybe the same, but it goes on a deeper maybe analysis of what the issues are based on how we used to think about stuff. You raised the second question: how can this community work or this shared or common agenda work? How can it change the system? That is, of course, a major thing. I do not have the golden answer for this, but I think the easy answer is that as long as there are many projects and can be in Europe and around the world, and we can show that we can leave old presuppositions and we can make new presuppositions. And if we combine them, then it may be a validation enough to change systems in a radical way. I already see hopeful things that you see that on a deeper presupposition level, things are starting to change. For example, it's now becoming very normal in the government in the Netherlands to talk about hops, for example. This was, I think, a few years ago, not even possible. Nobody knew this guy. And now it's quite normal to address this guy. Like, this is the reason that we have systems of distrust. And you see that's also because of the sustainability issues that now people are are making a deeper analysis about how did economic growth even started, and they relate it to, of course, Descartes, about the single economical unit, about all these economical philosophers. So you see that, and what you say, Christian, there are a lot of examples around the world who validate a different narrative, or as Eisenstein calls it, a more beautiful world, which we know in our hearts is possible. It's a beautiful sentence. A more beautiful world, which in our hearts know are possible. Know is possible. He even wrote a book about it. But you see that this big movement is all around the world. So the challenge for me is, as a civil servant, but also I want to ask your help, is how can we almost harvest all these good examples, these best practices, and show to our policymakers and our politicians that this other narrative, this other way to live together is possible, because we see it everywhere around the world with good best practices. And that underneath these best practices, there is a common, universal, good narrative, a narrative of good existence as humans, as nature. Yeah. So this is why I'm here internationally to ask for help to how can we make this narrative together without becoming an ideology in itself, but to have like a humble I don't know how to call it. Anyway, to show the perspectives and which shifts of presuppositions are at work on this deep metaphysical level. Yeah. I'm looking for that as well, Christian. All right. There's a question of Laura. How much do you need to research, understand of alternate narratives that might present alternatives to the current perspective world? Well, good question. With Socratic Design, there are two answers. The first is, I don't know if you had a good interview, but even with a simple interview, which you train today, you can become knowledgeable about new and old narratives, personal narratives, culture narratives. So you did a little bit of training. So now you're part of the movement, I would say.
Mhm.
On a more deeper level, to do Socratic Design well, of course, it requires training. And it requires, you have to be more knowledgeable about exactly about how narratives work, how many philosophers are in this metaphysical world active. You have to recognize them, and you become like a Socratic designer. You become aware of these philosophical implications, presuppositions. You can follow those trainings with the Socratic Design Academy. I think the link is already posted. Bertrand Schwab is the founder. He can train. You can train on a deeper level. But the other way is also true, that you did start all with starting with your own personal narrative. This is the start to becoming a Socratic designer, because now this afternoon or tomorrow, by repeating somebody's thoughts, You're already changing them and yourself. So that's the transformational power, just with this simple Socratic design intervention. You can do a whole dialogue. You have to be trained in moderating this, but you can also do it yourself. So both is true. Yeah? You can do it tomorrow. All right.
Roland, nice question. If you still have room.
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah.
Read it out loud, or maybe say it, Roland. Introduce it.
Yeah, Roland, you can if you want. If you're
yeah,
able.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I actually almost posted another question as well, but that's well, maybe that's the well. No, let's start with the earliest question. So let me go back to it actually. So the Socratic part I kind of get, as far as I can get it in one session, of course. The part on the design, I'm really curious about the views on from the method on how this design process is framed in terms of like who's running it, who's designing the design process, who's involved, who has what power. Because we see so many people, we see so many municipalities as well pretending to do participatory design, but at the same time still are doing the quite classic, oh, we'll invite some people, we already have something in our mind, we'll just present it, we'll see if we're supporters, and if there's strong pressure on us from the political side, we'll just do it anyway. So I was wondering about that.
Yeah, good question. And of course, this is something which I'm occupied with every day. Well, let's say that Future Lab is one of the projects where we try to do it as radical as possible. So we try to give the citizens themselves almost the full freedom to design what they want, but there are some boundaries. For example, financial boundaries. Yeah, one house may not cost 1 million. There are some boundaries, of course. There are some boundaries in time. The housing needs to be built on this time. Those are democratic boundaries. But within these boundaries, you can still design a lot. The process is designed. It's just one string of events. One string, one rope, with all kind of events which are being facilitated by a Socratic designer. Some of them are citizens themselves, because we train civilians to do Socratic design themselves. And the big question, which is always dominant, what is a good existence, or what is a good society? It's always the central question, which is continuing through all this process. And from this question, you can design everything. You can design a park, a house, a interaction with each other. You can design mobility. You can design energy systems and food chains. Starting from this first question, what is a good existence? And who designs it? Yeah, it's a corporation most of the times, with citizens and civil servants. And the shift here is the shift. It is all about shift of power, of course. Like we try to shift the power like as most as we can. But some powers, for example, who can control the bank account of making this housing, is still with the civil service, still with government, of course, and we still do the financial transactions. But the design, how does it looks like, who designs it, is mostly given now to the citizens. Roland, is that answering your question? Answering your question?
Yeah. Sure, thanks. But maybe a small follow-up question is like, how do you, I mean, the society is networked. Some people are more easy to find than others. So how do you assure that you involve groups or different narratives sufficiently?
Yeah, good question. I don't have the perfect answer. Like, we do enter a community with a most of the time with what we call citizens who are already very active in their community. And they're like in their community, they're being seen as a kind of a leader, or a person who is a representation of the community. Those we do involve, but one of the major tasks of these humans are to connect and invite other people who are normally not that willing to cooperate in this, or that willing, or to be able, or don't want, or are not aware of it, to cooperate. And we do actually have a financial, how do you say that, a small financial
incentive,
yeah, to cooperate. It's being used everywhere in the world. But we, for example, we if it's needed for some sessions, we pay 25 euros an hour, to participate in the sessions, and that is enough for people who, for example, have are, for example, are not employed, or have have no partner, but do have children. And this small financial incentive makes it a little bit more inclusive. But the most important thing is that we create a process of trust. That's important, and that we show people that they can decide what decides them. That's an important sentence of John Dewey. So democracy is also for humans to experience again that they are actually able to change their life, to decide what has effect on them. That's a democratic power of a human being. In many cultures, that's a very holy thing. Your sovereign power to think about your context and your society, and to participate in it, and to have discussions about it, or dialogues about it. A lot of people in many major cities, but in many, also in Amsterdam, has truly lost the human trait to be able to change your context. And that is what we give back again. And this is a very good human feeling, to be valuable again, not only for yourself, but for the people around you. And this is very, it's much more than participation. It's really a democratic, to make democratic healthy again. There's like a big movement underneath all these projects together, is to vitalize democracy again. You might even say it's a new renaissance of cities in Europe, to vitalize democracy again, to people to understand they can do change it on a personal narrative side, but also in your community, and also by voting and all the other things that you can do. So that's an underlying movement.
Thanks. Great.
Nice. More questions? We have 10 minutes yet, so open for anything. Systemic inquiry. Yeah, exactly. You're right, Christian. Yeah, by even questioning the system on this deeper level, you already change it. I think it's interesting how Nora Bateson explains it, right? If I'm humble enough to quote her, it's always dangerous, but as I understand her, let me be that humble, that she talks about these systems as being two huge things that in a system alone, a lot of people, for example, in the financial system or in the healthcare system, people are working very hard to keep it alive, this system, which is really dominant presuppositions. Economic has to grow, or this or that, but it's like it's falling apart. And how can we make a learning interaction between these systems? And this is what Socratic Design does. It tries to, unfold the underlying presuppositions in both systems and try to design new ones. So whole issues in individual systems do not exist anymore. Yeah.
How we're in our last 8 minutes. Sorry, Dennis, I'm talking through all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Feel free to add any feedback or appreciation in the comments. That's good for us to learn. What did we not do well? Go dark and go positive.
Yeah. It's a first international tryout, so eager to learn. How is AI involved in city workshops? Well, the interesting thing is we have. Do you have the link? We have we made the artificial intelligence vision with Socratic Design, so with dialogues with citizens. There's an English version. I think.
Already in chat.
Yeah. It's too short to elaborate longer, but technology is, of course, a very dominant, has a very dominant narrative. You can read it for yourself. It's very easy to read, actually.
Break, because actually...
Is it you, Martin? No?
I am so sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah, technology is interesting. There are a lot of philosophers who write about technology, many. But the interesting thing, we already talked about social media, that technology has the ability to actually enforce or strengthen all presuppositions in a very radical way. So the key sentence here is, and 1 point for 5 points for who knows the thought leader about this, technology is not neutral. Okay? Technology is infused with presuppositions. Donna Haraway was the one who wrote it down, but she has it from her own teachers. It goes back to Heidegger and many other philosophers. Technology is not neutral. Everything is, and technology is a very broad definition, right? It's about language, about the cities that you live in. It's your energy system, it's internet, of course. But interesting for you is to recognize the coming days when you use technology, which presupposition here is so ingrained in this technology that I start to believe that it's actually true. For social media, it's very, we already talked about it. But for example, look to the technology, for example, well, your healthcare system is interesting to observe, or your taxes system. But also very small technologies in your house or in your office, and they all express a few presuppositions. Most of them are, for example, efficiency. And the presupposition of efficiency is very interesting because, for example, we also lose something. We also are estranged from production by technology. And they say that the moment that we started making chairs from fabrics, so from the, how do you say this? And like we lost the ability to make our own chairs from wood. The craftsmanship movement. That was the moment that our society are tumbling down, said some philosopher, because we lost the ability to make beautiful stuff with our hands, and now it comes out of the fabric. So everything that's made from a fabric, this cup, this thing, I don't know where it comes from. It's estranged. I'm estranged from this product, and so I'm estranged from the world. And so I'm becoming. So that's I lose the idea that actually part of nature. So every part of technology is estranging us from the obvious truth that we are part of nature. So I wish you all a lot of luck discovering presuppositions in this coming next hours. Maybe some follow. We will send some. Do we do an after mail, Mart, or just a chat?
No. Just do chat, but we can send stuff in the platform chat if you want to share things.
Yeah, just I often get the question, how can they progress further? We have some material. We can post it on the platform. Marta already posted above in the chat a lot of links, which are those. The Socratic Design Academy is, of course, the company that we work with. Those are, of course, not
make
government.
The post as well online. Sorry.
Yeah. And we do have, as the City of Amsterdam, we do have a lot of free material. Those are part theory, so we have a lot of video online sessions, but we also have instruction manuals. So how can you do your own personal narrative, for example, or how can you do this Socratic light interview? You can read about it. It's Dutch, but that's not a problem anymore in this time of age. So that's a good thing. You can easily translate it. I think you already did the open research link, right? I can post it. Yeah. Just for sure, this is where you can. It's an open website. You can do the translate on your browser, and it might. And of course, if you want to contact me, especially everybody's welcome. But if you have ideas to envision together how a more beautiful world might be possible, I'm very willing to cooperate with you. I truly believe that as cities, as humans, coming together, finding like a common ground on the analysis of how we came into this crisis and how we can change it, transform it, is for me is really helpful. Yeah. Yeah, this was the first part of of Socratic Design. Normally, this takes like a day or 2 days. We did it actually in what is it, 3 hours? 3 hours. I do hope that you experienced some of it. So these three pillars, to be more conscious about your thinking, to have experienced an art of listening, and to have some knowledge now about the interconnection of presuppositions in yourself, organizations, and more metaphysical, more worldly, which are dominant, and that you can change them, and they go both ways. I want to truly thank you for your, yeah, how do you say this? Zijn, for your existence, your presence. That's the word. And I do hope you have a very wise coming hours and days. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dennis, for your time, your effort, your energy, your content, your experience, your answers, your questions. And second time around,
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had so many people subscribe to a session, and also never had such a long session.
Yeah.
So I think several firsts. So thank you. Thank you, everybody who was able to keep it going for 3 hours, because that's not nothing. And yeah, Dennis gave his email address. If you want to do something with the material, he's the key person. Thank you also for your feedback. Very useful. Of course, the good ones, especially because, hey, we have small egos that need feeding. And yeah, what else to say? I'll post up a little write-up on LinkedIn. And there's other ones already, like the last session you can watch completely too. If you want to share it with others, feel free to do so. SI Governance Hub, or yeah, just find it and you'll figure it out. So with that, people, thank you very much. As a good Dutchman does, I'm going to jump on my bike now for the next appointment, and which is actually at the City of Amsterdam, so that'll be funny. I hope to see you all soon. Oh yeah, and we're working on the next events. Probably one from somebody in Austria who does some work with the JRC on collective intelligence, and hopefully somebody from Democracy Now! But those are all still to be pre-produced, as I say, so they're just ideas. And it'll probably bring us from September, maybe even October, to do that in a light summer acknowledging rhythm. So again, thank you very much. Feel free to wander off, enjoy, and repeat what people say.
Thanks so much. Fijne
Thank you
dag.
very much.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Hey, dankjewel. Hey, Charles just joined. Ik stop hem en ik moet inderdaad racen. Dus Dennis, ga ook lekker. Ben je zo op de stoopbouw? Want dan pik ik je wel even als ik vrij ben.
Ik moet over een uur mijn zoon halen.
Oh nee, dat halen we niet. Nee. Oké, ik heb 2 tot 3 met minus. Oké. Hey, dankjewel nogmaals. En nou, laten we binnenkort anders even een koffie doen. Ik weet niet, je gaat vast direct op vakantie?
Nee, half juli pas.
Oh, nou moeten we even kijken wat we kunnen doen. Dat zou leuk zijn.
Ja, is goed. Tuurlijk.
Cool man. Hey, nogmaals, dankjewel. Het was weer, ja, as usual. You good. You're good. Bye everybody. Hey Roma, we're just closing off here.
Sure.
We're done.